We know that Joseph Smith dictated the Book of Mormon. The entire dictation required somewhere between 85 and 57 days. According to eyewitnesses, there were no manuscripts or books. And after breaks, Joseph would start anew without any reading back of where they were in the dictation. We're going to use something called reverse engineering. Let's look at the literary characteristics of the Book of Mormon and then anticipate the types of preparations and skills that a person would need to duplicate Joseph Smith's effort. It has 269,320 words. There are 6,852 sentences, which works out to a sentence length of about 39.3. And what that means is you've got an idea and an embedded idea and then maybe another one, and then you come back to the original, and it becomes, I think, harder. The book needs to be spoken at an 8th grade level. My dear friend Don Bradley said this: people have readily assumed the Book of Mormon was within Joseph Smith's writing ability when it's actually questionable how well it was within his reading ability. There are 170 original pronouns. There is parallel phraseology in the Book of Mormon. The most amazing thing about the chiasms in the Book of Mormon is that Joseph Smith was able to format these very long sections of sentences and phrases, and he did it all in real time. And then we have stylometric concerns. Nephi just has a different style of writing. His voice is different than, say, Mormon. And they've applied computer algorithms and things to this, and they really come up with a number of different voices in the Book of Mormon. There are 208 named characters. For each one of these, remember, you're going to be speaking in real time without manuscripts, without notes. Many of them hang around and interact, and keeping their characters straight will require some preparation. There are 45 social geographic groups. Some are mentioned once, some are mentioned dozens of times. But again, as these groups are presented in the text, just remember, what is their position? Why do we even need these people? Why are they segregated out from others in the text? There are a couple of genealogies. We're all aware of the record keepers among the Nephites, and then there's 30 generations among the Jaredites. Just keep them straight. We have references to the old world. There are spots that are on a real map. And so if you're going to start in Jerusalem and then dictate a direction for a period of time, it is wise to make sure that these travels will actually correlate with a real map. There's a monetary system with 12 weights, and then there's over 100 chronological references. Again, the emphasis is, as you're dictating this stream of words, keep the chronology straight. There are a lot of storylines. There's a lot that would go into making up that story. You're probably not going to be able to use a lot of imagination and creativity in real time. So, make these storylines up, get the details straight, what characters are involved, those kinds of things. And then we also have 63 major sermons. Now, most of us here have probably given talks in church. We probably used a piece of paper to help us with it. Well, you don't get a piece of paper. Lastly, there's several subjects that are mentioned with a degree of expertise that Joseph probably would not have gathered from his district schooling or from reading the Bible. Jacob chapter 5 has 3,750 words talking about olive trees. Israelite law is correctly applied throughout the Book of Mormon, and here's over a dozen of these cases. And again, you'd have to have some pretty intense understanding of the Bible or some external source to be able to portray these accurately. And then lastly, the intricacies of warfare as they are explained in the Book of Mormon give you the feeling that the writer is actually experienced. So here we have all of the literary characteristics of the Book of Mormon. We know that they all came out of Joseph Smith's mouth. That's just a stream of words that went straight to the printer. As we ask the question, well, what kind of preparations and what kind of skills would be needed? Now, if we try to model what's going on inside Joseph Smith's mind, we find that there's actually going to be some pretty intense preparation. If you're going to make up 170 new nouns, you're probably going to want to do that ahead of time and then put them in long-term memory. If you're going to do 208 named characters, maybe want to do profiles for each one of them and get that in your memory. And then the social geographic groups, why are they there? How do they interact? How do they function in the text? The maps, make sure you do the research for the geography that does exist. And besides the stuff that you're making up, make sure you create all of these places and get them all put into your memory. And the whole 3D version of this so that as you're dictating, you know where you are at all times. And then there's the 77 storylines. Again, probably better get them in your memory too, because doing that in real time is going to be tough. Coming up with a few plot lines and names, that's tough, but it's doable. But in real time, dictating a first draft phrase that is also wordsmith as a final draft, that is going to demand a lot more cognitive effort than anything else that Joseph Smith did, if all the things he did were using his natural abilities.